Hey there, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll get started here in just a minute. Appreciate the likes and subscriptions and shares, and let me know where you're tuning in from. Andre's coming in from the Netherlands. I wanted to be watering my garden and hilling potatoes, but the market is volatile today. We're going to start looking at the broader market. We'll check in on Bitcoin, Ethereum, APE, GMT, Luna, and then some of the weaker names that bears are continuing to keep an eye on as we are in a weak market environment. A little bit of a fake out yesterday. Puerto Rico, Texas, Toronto, Iraq, Tennessee. I like Tennessee. I feel like if I were to get an investment property at this point, ideally I want to see some fear in the market, but outside Chattanooga, Tennessee seems like a pretty good bet. Sweden, Croatia. All right, let's get started. Move my face out of the way. So we have the NASDAQ with a clear rejection from resistance and a big red day. So as I've been hammering home the last couple of days, today and tomorrow matter more to me as far as an FOMC reaction than yesterday. Yesterday had 2 hours to react. I want to see what happens after the dust settles. The bulls punched the bears in the mouth yesterday with that reaction, just V-shaped, big time move. So what I want to see is, how do bears respond now that they've been punched in the face? If you punch someone in the face and you don't knock them out, they then collect their wits and they're going to come back at you. And so this is the bears coming back at the bulls and winning in a big way. And the NASDAQ now has a triple top of clear resistance. And we can say as long as this level is resistance, the bears have absolute complete control. So for me, why do I care about these days more than the FOMC reaction? If big money, and by big money, I mean billions of dollars, if they're going to be making moves, they're not going to do it all in a 2-hour window at the end of the day. They're going to do it spread out over some time. And so now we're seeing a massive sell-off in the broader market. This is one of the weaker days, and the weaker days that we've been seeing in this year have come from bull moves. Because when you see a bull move, you are not oversold on any time frames. The hourly RSI is up at 70. And so then when you dump from there, you can drop a lot further before you hit oversold conditions. So here we have a down day of 5% in the NASDAQ. And the hourly RSI, the 4-hour RSI is not oversold. The hourly RSI did get oversold and is a potential bear flag right now. But if the 4-hour, if the daily, if none of these time frames are oversold, you're not going to see people stepping in front of the speeding bear train trying to be a hero and go long. I'll do it if things are extreme and at historical oversold bounce levels on the daily and the 4-hour time frame. But if they aren't, I'm not trying to nail bottoms here. So here we are testing a key support. And again, the NASDAQ bears are still very confident. And a day like today, you can just feel the bulls get more and more disheartened the more and more this kind of price action takes place. So simple statement is bears have complete control. And in the live stream this morning, one thing that I was talking about was, it was a live stream preparing for the stock market day. The resistance on the NASDAQ and the S&P 500, with it being so clear and the fact that we are so correlated to the broader market, with Bitcoin correlated to the NASDAQ, I care more about the NASDAQ resistance levels relative to Bitcoin than I do Bitcoin resistances. So does that make sense? I feel that the NASDAQ is steering the ship here without a doubt. And so if the NASDAQ ship has icebergs ahead and Bitcoin right behind it doesn't see any icebergs, I care about the icebergs that the NASDAQ can see. And that triple top of resistance on the NASDAQ was a very clear level that everybody could look at. And if you look at Bitcoin on the daily time frame, yes, we have some resistance levels, but nothing is crystal clear as a triple top. So until we see a notable shift in the correlation and how these markets are trading relative to each other, the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 levels are going to be just as important, if not more important to me than Bitcoin's levels. So what do I need to see for the NASDAQ to shift? A break of the lower highs. we are in a daily downtrend, and that did not change. Daily bounce last week, lower high set, lower low with no follow through, double top, and now we're heading back down to the low. So if we don't break this double top, bulls aren't going anywhere. And again, the daily RSI is not oversold. Neither is the weekly, neither is the 4-hour. So Bitcoin had the 12-hour falling wedge bull break and 0 follow through. So here we are testing now. We broke 37s, a couple support levels in the 37s. And now we're looking down at 34.3 as the next level. And so on the weekly perspective, we can see did not break the high of last week. And it's a fake out where, after the bull move happened yesterday, I started to feel a little bit of FOMO just because I had no positions. I didn't buy the bull break. I have not been comfortable going long in this market. And so it was, I don't have a position. Maybe I'll be interested in a 4-hour or a 12-hour high or low. And fortunately, the drop of this move was fast enough that I didn't even get a chance for any bullish entries. So this just resumes my mindset of patiently on the sidelines. And I have the same mindset trying to play crypto bounces as I do the broader market. If we are not at historical extreme RSI levels, and if the bulls are not proving anything to me, I have no interest in a bullish position. Bulls started to try and prove something to me. It didn't last very long, and we are not at historical oversold levels. The daily RSI is up at 39. The 4-hour RSI is not even oversold. It's close, but it's not there. The hourly got oversold. I care much less about the hourly RSI right now. I care about the hourly RSI a lot when we're in a daily uptrend. When we're in a daily downtrend, it doesn't mean nearly as much to me. And I'm being picky. I'm being patient and picky. And bears are going to continue to be aggressive as long as this market environment remains. The dominance chart on Bitcoin, interesting. Dominance dropping. This is interesting. I say this is interesting because I would expect this dominance chart today to be up a good bit with Bitcoin dropping faster than altcoins. But it's looking like altcoins dropping faster than Bitcoin would be the norm. But it's looking like Bitcoin was leading the way down. Really, it looks like two different legs here. So looks like alts might have led the way down and then Bitcoin caught up a bit. Either way, everybody's weak. We can see on my list here on the right, GMT now down 20%, such a beautiful short. Again, I got some short FOMO for APE and GMT shorts from last weekend. And people say, well, why don't I switch exchanges? There are exchanges out there I can use. Number one, the US is extremely limited. Yes, there are some potential options. I need FDIC insurance. I'm not going to risk any kind of significant capital on an exchange where there's any possibility that I could just poof overnight, lose it all. Because again, risk and reward is not worth it for me to risk the significant gains from 2017 and beyond trying for more. I'm in a much more conservative trading mindset. And if I can't have my funds ensured that they're protected, then for me, it's a no-go. Automatic, nope, not worth it. But congrats to the bears that do have those positions because they have been good ones. We'll look over those here in just a minute. So dominance chart still tightening up on the weekly. And waiting for a break of this long, drawn-out tightening range to take place. As far as a short-term bounce, anybody looking for a short-term bounce right now? We got a stair-step hourly drop. We got a 5-minute. Actually, it's a 15-minute. Trying to hold the low here. We're doing the exact same thing as the NASDAQ. It's almost like I don't even need to look at the Bitcoin chart. Here's QQQ. So Ethereum is holding on a bit better. We have not dropped to a lower low yet, 27.16, but that's about the only bullish thing that we can say right now. We haven't hit a new low, but obviously we gave back a ton of this move. We're going to be playing the zoom out game. When we get an hourly bounce, we're going to scout an hourly lower high. When we get a 4-hour, when we get bounce follow through, we're going to scout a 4-hour lower high. Then from there, we will scout a daily lower high on all these names. So bears are just patiently waiting. An aggressive bear is scouting an hourly lower high. A patient bear is waiting for a 4-hour lower high. The more patient bears just had, their daily lower high entries on a lot of names. ETHBTC back tested this falling wedge and confirmed continuation. So it's trying to set up a weekly high or low off of EMA 12 support. And that would keep ETHBTC strong if this weekly high or low is set here, because that would be a weekly bull flag as a possibility. But in this instance, we're going up because we're just not dropping as hard as Bitcoin, which again is a bit unusual. That's not the norm of the market environment over the last couple of years. If you show me this ETHBTC chart, more often than not, this means crypto is going up and Ethereum is going up faster than Bitcoin. Less often, we're dropping and Ethereum is holding up better than Bitcoin. That does not happen as often, but that is what is happening today. So just making note of that observation, nothing to do with it at this point, and just watching to see if that were to continue. Do we continue to see a shifting market environment where Bitcoin drops faster than altcoins? I would be surprised if that were to happen, but certainly open to all possibilities. APE. So APE is a lead bear with a big time pullback. We will be scouting a weekly high or low, anything above 1051. We had an Elon Musk pump where he changed, it's so comical at this point, but he changes his Twitter picture to the apes and it pumps. And then he very quickly after posts, doesn't seem very fungible to me, and we dump. So then we had a little daily lower high. Bear flag on the daily is now confirmed. And at this point, we've used up all our oversold bounces. I don't like the 4-hour oversold as something to be watching for because in my opinion, we got down to 4-hour RSI at about 32, 33. And then we bounced, thanks to Elon, we bounced a very significant amount. So as far as I'm concerned, that was essentially our 4-hour oversold bounce. It was front ran a little bit, but that just makes me a lot more picky looking for bounce plays on a name like this. So top set down 50% real quick. AAVEBTC is not quite as weak as the US dollar pairing. So if I were going to be looking bullish, I'd be keeping an eye out to see if that remains the case, because that could be an initial little indication to be watching for a bounce. But playing it safe, I would personally just be keeping a bear lean on things until bulls prove something. And that remains the case for APE as well. Clear daily downtrend. GMT was a beauty. The 4-hour. So again, why was I looking bearish on GMT? Because number one, I was looking for APE to top out and they were trading as a pair. And very often we see these little small groups of altcoins, whether they're related or not by sector, trading in unison and then fading in unison from being a lead bull spotlight to then seeing a notable amount of weakness. And so the fact that this weekly chart was so overextended, the fact that we were bearish in Bitcoin overall while this is taking place, we know weekly consolidation is going to happen. And we know it's going to be a significant percentage when it happens. And so we had a 4-hour rising wedge that broke bear as the initial red flag for bulls. So that was an aggressive bear entry. At that point, we know momentum is shifting. We then zoom out to the daily and we say, okay, if daily support can hold, it's a potential head and shoulders pattern that we need to then be watching for a daily lower high. We had a very weak bounce. Technically, we broke the pattern of a lower high every day, but just barely. And then we rolled over in a big way today. So bears getting their big win on this drop today. We will be scouting a weekly high or low. 4-hour oversold is being hit and is not responding. We're going to scout an hourly lower high next bounce. We're going to scout a 4-hour lower high next bounce. And as far as any targets, we got a lot of price action between 2 and 250. But bears have full control now as weekly consolidation is underway. So that was a real nice win for the bears as well. GMT BTC, very similar. A more convincing head and shoulders. We had a big upper wick. Not sure if that was just specific to Binance or if we saw that upper wick. I guess we're not going to have that history anywhere else but Binance. Yeah, can't compare. My question was this upper wick legitimate? I guess the volume makes it look fairly legitimate. Either way, bear break on the daily to lower lows. Same with the BTC pairing. We will be scouting weekly higher lows on both, but at the moment, a lot of bear momentum. Not trying to be a hero and nail the bottom. Luna. So we're watching for Luna. And again, one thing I've been pointing out recently is how we have these examples to be going off of, and the fact that Mana and Sand went from lead bull spotlight to lead bear spotlight, and then Luna started shifting. That had me more prepared to be scouting APE and GMT to go from lead bull to lead bear, because we just have these beautiful examples of that exact same thing in other names. So now we're watching to see, is Luna going to confirm a weekly downtrend and really start to shift that momentum? And what we need to see is, how is this Luna BTC chart? I drew this last live stream, probably 2 live streams ago. So we're just tightening up here. If Luna BTC breaks this support here, then we are extremely likely for Luna USDT to confirm the weekly downtrend. And a break of 75.67 would confirm the weekly downtrend and just have one more trend in favor of the bears. Daily lower high is now set at 88.35. And there is a double bottom down at 75.76, but heading down towards that level. And again, watch that Luna BTC pairing. That's going to give us clues as to whether or not the US dollar pairing is more likely to break support or not. Another handful of names that we were keeping an eye out for daily lower highs on this bounce. Matic is one of them. Daily, I mean, it's just, we know a daily lower high is the most likely scenario after the green day yesterday. Why do we know that? Because we have all the space in the world. And daily EMA 12 was just such a nice guide for bears. It happened really quick, so there wasn't an easy entry. But, and what I say by an easy entry, for me, an easy entry would mean a big enough pullback and then a clear hourly lower high bounce for a bearish entry and then confirming the hourly downtrend. So this was a very weak bounce that didn't give a whole lot of a chance for bears to enter. But the daily lower high is set. And again, watch the BTC pairings, because there's many names that have their BTC pairings very weak as well. Theta is another name that we were looking bearish on. Mana, we know, has been a lead bear. Daily EMA 12 rejection. So the EMA 12 alone is not enough to say I'm going bearish. It's a piece of the puzzle. And price action then needs to follow through as well. It's looking like, you know, how these waterfall drops occurred, that really only aggressive bears would have been in some entries here for those daily lower highs. But the daily downtrends are now our clear guide. We keep it very simple. If we keep setting daily lower highs, the bears are in complete control. I am personally writing off an entire side of trading. I am writing off bull trades until XYZ conditions are met. Very clear statement. I don't have to sit down every single day and make decisions where my emotions are coming into play. I just make that very baseline statement. Are we at historical RSI oversold bounce levels? No. Are bulls proving anything? Nope. Nothing changing. I am bearish, as long as that is the case. So the only way that things are going to change in the short term is if the bulls have a miraculous save in the NASDAQ and S&P 500 and turn around within the next few days and break this triple top. And it's present on the S&P 500 as well. It's possible. I won't say it can't happen. The size of the retracement makes it the less likely scenario, but that is what has to happen for a short-term save. Otherwise, we can anticipate heading towards lower lows. So keep an eye on the NASDAQ and S&P 500 trying to set a daily higher low. Again, Bitcoin doesn't have that daily higher low. So I have more clarity in the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 chart than I do on Bitcoin. And it's good enough. That's good enough clarity for me to know what Bitcoin is doing unless something significantly changes in correlations. All right. So we're watching bear plays at this point. Again, I need a lot more weakness if I am going to step. I've done it plenty of times. You know that if you've been watching how many times I have stepped in front of a speeding bear train. And I love oversold bounces. So if I am not interested in oversold bounces, there's a reason. And it's because we are not in the ideal scenario to be looking for them. This is my ideal scenario. Waterfall drop, extremes. Absolutely crushed, flush everything out, clear the order book. So on the way back up, it's a fast bounce. But if we're not even close to daily oversold, I'm not even close to wanting to play an oversold bounce on the daily time frame. All right. Again, predictions. I know everybody's loving to make these predictions. And it's nice to have a rough game plan. Another point that I made on the live stream this morning. It's nice to have game plans and things you are looking for that trigger trades. You know, I'm going to be patient. I'm looking for, this is just a hypothetical, I'm looking for 25,000 Bitcoin, and that's what I'm going to buy. Okay, you've got that game plan. That's great. Clear, very simple. What invalidates that game plan for you? It is just as important to lay out the triggers for your game plan as well as what invalidates that game plan. What would have to happen on that chart for you to say, uh-oh, I'm wrong. We're not heading to 25,000. You need to have that laid out as well so that you can recognize that as that's happening and admit that you are wrong, because we are wrong in this game all the time. And the quicker we can determine we are wrong, the more money we're going to save and the more money we can potentially make. And that requires getting very comfortable with your ego and being able to look in the mirror and say, I was wrong. All right, I'm looking at the chat room now. Appreciate you all tuning in this fine Thursday. Do I think the futures ETFs are the reason the BTC to stock correlation is so high? I'm sure it's a factor. I couldn't say, I would just be guessing, but I think it has a lot to do with the increase in institutional money coming into the space. And again, just setting up these automated trading systems. There's so much correlation in the stock market. It is insane. It's just robots just firing off signals to each other. And so the more that Bitcoin matures, the more it becomes a part of that. So as far as, what's the major reason? I'm sure you could point to a handful of things, but I think it's inevitable with maturity. If you want ETFs, if you want big institutional money, if you want widespread adoption as parts of IRA portfolios, it's going to happen. It's inevitable. DXY is key. Keep an eye on DXY because we can't have any confidence in any bulls as long as that is strong. And we had a 12-hour downtrend confirmed with zero follow-through, and now we got a daily bull flag. And the statement for me is if daily EMA12 is support on the dollar, the bulls are in full control. No more analysis needed. Simple statement. Which is a better alternative to trading BTC? I can't speak to BITO because I don't trade it. I have not traded it. Dollar volume, that's a lot, 125 million. MARA, I've been noticing, is trading more in line with QQQ than with Bitcoin recently. And that's a bit of a change. That has shifted around over the last year. What is it reacting to more? But it's clear over the last week that MARA and Coin are trading based on QQQ more than Bitcoin. And it stood out glaringly yesterday when crypto went up overnight. Stocks and futures didn't do anything. And MARA did not go up nearly as much as you would expect, with Bitcoin notably higher. As far as dollar volume here, it's more dollar volume on MARA. I see there's less gaps on the MARA chart, so I like that fact. The less gaps, the better, because that can make trading more difficult. Just in terms of stops being skipped and things like that. So my bias is MARA, but again, I have not traded BITO enough to have a good comparison. Honestly, I have no idea where the dollar index is going. We are at 20-year highs or whatever it is. So I'm just going to stick with the trends. We get to certain points on charts where it's just all about trends for me and not projecting targets. It's just I'm a bull as long as we're in a daily uptrend. And then when you lose the daily uptrend, things start to shift and you adjust your analysis. So that's a lot of people use fib, not retracements, fib, not projections, extensions, fib extensions for targets. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not my style personally. I just stick to, okay, I'm a bull as long as, and that's how I take profit in a blue sky market. I will hold this Bitcoin blue sky position as long as we're in a 4-hour uptrend. And then you lose a 4-hour uptrend, and that's when I take profit. Rather than looking for a target. I'll just hold it as long as we keep that uptrend. Cake BTC. Holding well. Trying for a weekly higher low. All right. Cake standing out as a lead bull. It's still weak in the short term on its daily chart, but that BTC pairing does stand out. We are in a weekly downtrend though. That was a fail. That was a weekly trend change attempt that failed. So still in a weekly downtrend. Can't disregard that. We could say it's better to be in Cake than a bunch of other names, but it still is weak itself. Dump caught off guard because looking for a 4-hour higher low. So volume certainly was a major factor. And there was a ton of bear volume in the broader market as well. First 5-minute oversold conditions was not setting a low. That was a little bit of a clue. First 15-minute oversold conditions, I mean, we just completely fell off. So as far as, what's the clue that a 4-hour higher low is not coming? Really, it wouldn't become crystal clear. This candle is obviously, okay, that's a red flag because you look at the consolidation candles preceding it and nothing was even close to that. And then the second one was, okay, big time red flag. We're giving way too much back. And at that point in time, you can look over to the stock market and see carnage. So keep an eye on the broader market because, again, the resistance level is crystal clear on the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, and the resistance was not crystal clear on Bitcoin aside from 40,000 psychological. Lack of a blow-off top in Bitcoin and things being a bit different. Yeah, it was a different kind of top for sure, at least comparative to 2017, 2018. And I think a lot of it, I mean, this you could consider a bit of a blow-off top. And I think the fact that we headed to a higher high with a lack of follow-through, it was definitely different. It was more of just looking like bulls just ran out of gas as opposed to shooting way up and shooting way down. So I wouldn't say it's a characteristic. I mean, you don't have to always find a top and a climax. That's how we've become used to it. In many wild volatility sectors, doesn't have to happen every time. But I think because it was a higher high with zero follow through rather than, a huge move up, creating a huge amount of space with no support levels and then falling back down through it. So I think how we formed that top had a lot to do with how the top ended up being. That doesn't make much sense, but the fact that it was a higher high with no follow through and then rolling over as opposed to, up 40% from any price that we've seen anytime recently and then just completely rolling over. LINKBTC is really struggling. So it's got a daily bounce underway, but just it's trends like anything else. Daily EMA 12 has been resistance for a month. So if daily EMA 12 is resistance, the bulls are not proving a thing. Nothing changes. When's the last time we've seen a weekly higher low and higher high on LINKBTC? We have not seen it in almost a year. So if we're not seeing a weekly uptrend, nothing is changing bigger picture. So bulls have to prove to us. Again, we want to identify things on charts. This has not happened in X amount of years. This has not happened in X amount of months. So that we know if that happens, it's a changing market environment. If it doesn't happen, the market environment is staying the same. Did anything stand out from the FOMC meeting? No. I didn't even watch it. Just watch the price action. And again, I've seen so many times where the reaction the day of the FOMC announcement is completely reversed the next day or two, which is why the importance for me is always on this full day of trading. and tomorrow's full day of trading rather than the 2 hours of trading on the announcement day. It definitely is a factor. We're not ignoring what happens on the announcement day. It's just not as important. ETH does look strong compared to Bitcoin. It is stronger. All right. And again, I will end with the statement that I made 100 times. You don't need to nail the bottom when the market cycle shifts to make good money. I bought Bitcoin 200% off the CVID lows, and it went real well because it gave me a very clear risk reward setup, a tight equilibrium, play the bull break. And then from that point, 200% off the bottom, we then go 500, 600%. So not saying that's going to happen next time, but again, just want to burn into your brain, I don't need to nail the bottom. Just like bears didn't need to nail the top. Bears didn't need to nail the 60,000s to make significant gains in Bitcoin. They've had a lot of chances. The bulls will have a lot of chances when the market environment shifts. Bears are going to get their turn. It could last weeks, months, years. We don't know. We take it one day at a time. Every day gives us new information that can help us shift probabilities. And at this point, we're watching our fear lows in the low 30s. If we break 20, 28, 29,000, we know something is very significantly different just in terms of size of the pullback. I'm in patient mode, very, very patient mode. Give me daily RSI in the low 20s and a break of 32.9, and I'll start to get interested in a bounce and a bull play. Otherwise, it's going to take a good bit of convincing to get me interested again. All right, I appreciate you all tuning in. Thanks for the likes. Only 92 likes, we can get that to 100. All right, and again, I can't stress enough, watch the broader market videos that I put out because that is just as relevant, if not more relevant, than these crypto check-ins because that is who is steering the ship. And it is the bears in charge of the broader markets right now. Do good things. See you soon.